Oh. Just before go to bed balls start. This stream is for degenerate Europeans only, or Americans, or the most healthy of Japanese people who are waking up at 7 a.m. so they can get on Twitch, which sounds pretty unhealthy. Oh my god, that bitch on the left need a woman to look at me like that? That was one of the Patreon requests, but I increased her bitchiness. This is the original Nikkei image. She looks bitchy, but not as bitchy as my version. People are afraid to go full bitchy mode, but not me. I'm all in. It's 5:13 a.m. and I haven't slept yet. People aren't going to grind those MMOs for you. Now get back on waiting for that notorious monster to pop. It would be Chinese filled turtle wow for me. Who is playing MMOs in 2026? That's my alarm going off to tell me it's time to start streaming. Ugh. I wish I was playing MMOs in 2026. Unfortunately, I have to be a grown adult and make money so I don't starve. It sucks. Galleon looks so good. Well, I have to figure out how to do the dark black areas and the gray areas and stuff now, which is difficult because, as is often the case with characters that are designed to be shown in color at all times, the balance between black and white can get very complicated because it's not meant to be in like full black, white, and gray in the first place. If I was going to play a gacha, and I will not be playing a gacha under any circumstance, I would probably play Grand Blue Fantasy. It reminds me of the aesthetics that some of my favorite 90s Square Enix, back when actually it was just Square, some of my favorite games of that era looked like. And I know they have multiple artists, but you can't tell that the some characters are drawn by different artists because they do a good job maintaining the style in between characters, which is one of my big complaints with Fate Grand Order, is that like you can clearly tell like the artists aren't trying to maintain a consistent look. And some people might like that if it's like a famous artist. Maybe they want to see the right up body, but It bugs the hell out of me, so I would probably play Grand Blue Fantasy if I was going to play a gacha, but I'm not going to play any gacha, so it's kind of irrelevant. I guess she has hair in the back. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on with her hair because she has the nun's outfit, but one of the images shows that she has hair, so it's kind of like this, I guess. All right, let's start doing the extremely boring experience of adding dark areas, gray areas, and dark areas. I need an assistant to do this shit for me. Why is everybody coming into the stream and immediately glazing the artwork? Are you guys that thirsty for boobs? I assume you are. But I don't want to have a positive supporting chat. Only toxicity is allowed here, guys. I haven't touched a woman in over 30 years, so yes. It's a shame how you're not allowed to just walk up and touch women. That gets you arrested, it turns out. Also, the women in real life don't exactly look like Kemomimi dragon, but not a dragon. Big titty, mind reading waifu. They're not as attractive as 2D drawing of a woman that has specifically been designed by a man to be attractive to your taste. So I think her boobs need to be bigger. Canonically, they might be even slightly bigger, but I think they're right, exactly the correct size if we're looking at the artwork. They're about the size of her face. I think this is about right. Face size, face size. Each individual boob is about the size of her face, which is what I have them right now. Yeah, seems about right. This is how I measure boob sizes. There's two sizes of big boobs in how I measure things. The boob is either the size of the character's face or the size of the character's head. Everything else is a small boob. The anime waifus treat you better too, I heard. Even if they're mean, they secretly adore you. I feel like there's a unexploited area there. How about anime waifus that are mean and don't secretly adore you? I bet there would be lots of people who would still be simping for that. How about anime waifu that is mean but neither likes or dislikes you? She's just mean to everybody. But if you start to improve your relationship with her, then she'll be extra mean to you. Roberta from Black Lagoon. Roberta is very nice to her uh, Shota master or whatever. She's very protective of him. So people who are gonna self-insert as the little boy aren't gonna be like, oh, she's being mean to me. I'm thinking that's such a character that will attract Yona and non-con fans. I'm not saying that they have to beat the guy up. What about people that are just like vaguely unpleasant? I feel like the moe market is so saturated. We need to start throwing curveballs here. We can't just assume that any girl that is interested in male self-insert will be enough now. We need more realistic women with realistic needs. They don't have to be realistic. They just need to be different from kawaii anime ugu. And once we get used to the kawaii anime ugu, we have to move on to some more exotic taste. And then after a while, you can go back to vanilla again. Everything old will be new again. This music is making me want to play some basic ass RPG with extremely generic, like town or something. We can't hear the music. Oh, it must have updated or some shit. Interesting. Oh, I know why. No, that's my mic. Mic audio. No. Oh, desktop audio. There we go. There's supposed to be music, lol. Yeah, because I just updated OBS. They had desktop audio turned off by default. I just noticed. You're not missing much, it's just standard AI slop. AI slop is most valuable when you need to have some kind of like meaningless background image or meaningless background noise. Whenever you need something that actually has some kind of meaning, suddenly it's a huge pain, but if it's something that doesn't really matter, if all you need is like something, any kind of placeholder, then it's fine. Which is definitely enough to justify a $1 trillion valuation for these AI companies. Having meaningless placeholder art is definitely what we want to be using the GDP of several small countries for. That's better. Falls asleep to calm, relaxing beats to relieve stress 24/7. Yes. Just imagine this big titty dragon female caressing your head in her large soft breasts as you listen to generic AI generated RPG town music. As she says, "Ara ara, good boy." Men only want one thing and it's disgusting. Does she have penetrable inverted nipples? That is important. I'm gonna stand up and say my unpopular opinion. I don't care if the internet gets angry at me for it. I don't like nipple penetration hentai. I wish they would focus on penetrating the vagina instead of the nipples. I know this is a very controversial opinion, but I had to say it. The nipples are not meant to stick your penis in. They never were. Legit question, why would I listen to AI-generated RPG music when there's so many great OSTs already? The answer is because I don't want, like, super good music to be, disrupting my flow. Really good music makes you feel something, but I don't necessarily want to be feeling anything besides background noise when I'm drawing. I would just want it to be white noise, essentially. AI soundtrack is just like a slightly more specific version of white noise. I listen to brown noise only. Imagine having to listen to brown noise to shit when you could just shit on your own. I don't need some sort of soundtrack to help me shit my pants. It's always a possibility. Or if you use Nintendo's music, a squad of Japanese lawyer ninjas kills you in your sleep legally. I'm pretty sure most of their legal team is more in America. I bet their Japanese legal team is like actually very small because the Japanese legal system is so like fully based on like good faith that like even if you're like a slightly predatory litigious entity, you probably can get shit done even with a very small legal team. Whereas in America, like that's the country of lawyering, so they probably have like way more American lawyers than Japanese lawyers. Japan is a country based on assuming that most people aren't going to have lawsuits. So when you're one of these like small few companies that are constantly doing lawsuits, I think you can get ahead. I.e. Nintendo. Nintendo being sick fucks as usual, you know? Yeah, brown refers to frequency of noise. I might have been thinking about the concept of the brown note as introduced to me in a South Park episode where it makes it you shit yourself. I forgot that now in the internet age we have all these stupid colored sound noises that everyone thinks exist. It's like, oh, that's brown noise, that's green noise, that's white noise, blah blah blah. Shit is stupid. Born to shit, forced to wipe. Now that I have a bidet in the toilet around me, I don't even need to wipe. I just have the robot pull out its hidden nozzle, and then my asshole gets sprayed by a stream of warm water, but not too hard to damage my hemorrhoids. Technology is truly an amazing thing, isn't it, guys? That's so nice for you. I am not jealous one bit. Washlets in Japan have just become everywhere. They're just everywhere. Even in like public toilets that are just being maintained by tax dollars, they might usually have washlets. Like only the absolute shittiest of toilets don't have like all these electronic heated seat features. You probably shouldn't be in those toilets in the first place because they're probably like gachimuchi meetups for gay men. Average park toilet where you walk in and you find either hot, sweaty gay sex between strong, muscular, hairy men or a magical girl that has been defeated by an evil villain tied up and strapped to the toilet, covered in used condoms with free use written on her thighs. Actually, I was checking out the local park toilet where I jog, and it said, there was a piece of paper that said, some people have been performing mischief in this toilet and throwing the rolls of toilet paper in the toilet into the urinal. Note that we have consulted the police about this, and we will find whoever is doing it. And I was like, holy shit. That's the most Japanese thing I've seen. Because once I started reading the note, like before I finished reading it, my mind was already thinking, oh, they're going to take away our toilet paper privileges because people can't be, good human beings enough to not throw the toilet paper into like one of the urinals and stuff. But instead of being like, no, we won't have toilet paper for you to use, instead the park people are like literally like, no, we're gonna fucking consult the police. And the police have enough time on their hands to actually be like, yeah, we're gonna solve this toilet paper issue. Instead of being like, bro, we have 30 unsolved homicides in this neighborhood. We don't have time worrying about your toilet paper. Do they have 30 unsolved homicides? I'm saying that they don't have 30 unsolved homicides because it's Japan, so they can spend time solving the mystery of kids fucking with the toilet paper in the park toilet. If this was America, they would have 30 unsolved homicides, of course. Japan doesn't have that many unsolved homicides, partially because they don't have many homicides in general, but also because they'll just like, the prosecutors will be like, I'm sure this is the guy, and then try and get a confession for like 50 days. I thought it was a misplacement of priorities. You guys don't understand. Japan just doesn't have much crime in general. So they can afford to be like, let's solve what's going on in this toilet. We must protect the gentrified society. So it produces criminals, but it doesn't preoccupy itself with actually bringing justice to the actual perpetrators, settle the score. It's more like the prosecutors only prosecute cases in which they're very confident that they can win. Often when anti-Japan Westerners talk about what a dystopian country it is, they'll talk about like the 100% or like 99% success rate for prosecutors to get convictions, and they're like, see, Japan is actually a fascist state. You weebs don't understand. The wonderland that you think is a utopian society, it's actually a fascist state, but it's actually just the prosecutors, they under-prosecute crimes because it's they don't want to hurt their record. So they only bring it to court if they are very confident they can win. Also, anybody who's like, see, Japan is a dystopia in which prosecutors they don't properly prosecute crimes or some shit, is like, bro, I guarantee whatever judicial system that you're living under is no better than Japan's. There aren't any real like great judicial systems out there. You just have to hope that you're not going to get completely fucked over by the judicial system some of the time. Again, criminals can just get away with murder if they don't get caught because they will just get somebody else. Great comment there, Pentaperno. Excellent comment. It's right up there with if people are killed, they die in terms of no shit, Sherlock. Yes, if criminals don't get caught, they will get away with murder. Who would have fucking thought? Shocking how that works. You can't say one nice thing about Japan without some retard thinking you are using utopic logic. Well, we're sort of in the blowback phase because too many people found out how nice Japan was and how functional it was as a society, and too many people started glazing it online. So now we have all these people who also haven't been to Japan. Both the people who are glazing Japan and the people who are complaining about Japan probably have not lived in Japanese society to any real degree. But now you have all these people online who are like, actually, sir, did you forget of all the war crimes committed by Imperial Japan in World War II? 80 years ago? You forget about that, sir? Yes. Don't feel so smart now, huh? How can you like this country for its tasty snacks when they had a specific regiment that committed torture against prisoners of war back in 1946? Are you sure you want to buy a plastic model from a country that is guilty of war crimes? Your Redditor impression is spot on. By the way, if anybody online is like, think about all the war crimes that Japan has committed in World War II, make sure you don't be like, hey Grok, what were the Japanese civilian death counts from U.S. military actions in World War II? Hey Grok! Overall estimate, roughly 500,000 to 800,000, with most reliable mid-range fingers around 600 to 700,000, including 300,000 to 500,000 from conventional firebombing, 226,000 from atomic bombs, additional tens of thousands from ground naval actions in places like Okinawa. That's a lot of people. It was a lot of people. This is what happened when you're like, you see that city full of civilians? You see how all of their houses are made out of paper and wood? What if we drop napalm on it? And everybody fucking dies, so... Do the numbers add up? In this case, they do add up, unlike, you know, various other CCP release numbers of Chinese accounts of Japanese war crimes. I mean, you're basically burning down 85% of Tokyo, so you can reach those numbers pretty easily. Just need to burn everything. Fire is amazing, guys. It does a ton of shit. War never changes. It really does change, actually, quite a lot, though. Actually, war is actually the thing that changes the most, I would say. There's a lot of other societal things that are much more stable than war. War vastly changes both in its methodology, its goals, its techniques used. I mean, even looking at a single war, like, say, the Ukraine-Russia war that we have right now, a lot of that has changed while the war is going on. So, it actually changes quite a bit, I would argue. Hey, Luminous Connoisseur, thanks for the sub. Boner created. I'm working on it. That's my mission. We're trying, guys. Can't wait for the Great Gundam War. Great Gundam War be like, what if we drop colony on Earth? We need Elon to succeed in his space endeavors so he can have gigantic colonies in space. Only then will we have the opportunity to perform mass weapon drops on civilian populations. We need to get a megaton space structure available in space so we can drop it on people. Twitch, I'm only joking. I would never actually propose that we need to free humanity from the pull of Earth's gravity by dropping a gigantic asteroid and causing a nuclear winter, forcing people to move to space. That would be unethical. Has Sensei BaalBud played the Gundam card game? I don't have time to be playing card games, so no. Also, can I point out that the end of Char's counterattack doesn't make any fucking sense? And it's actually quite a bastardization of the concepts of new type and the evolution of people and stuff, because it's just like, ooh, what if I use my magical new type powers to push this trillion-ton asteroid out of Earth's gravity well? Up until that point, they were at least like, you could at least explain new type powers in the form of being like, as humans are moving to space, they have to evolve to develop telepathy over long distances because we need to communicate, blah blah blah. But in Char's counterattack, it goes full retard, and they're like, it's a miracle, guys. Amino is just gonna push the fucking asteroid back, but nobody questions this stuff because we're too interested in buying the cool robot toys. We can't be bothered to be like, actually, this is shitty narrative, because we don't really expect Tomino to make good narratives. Nobody expects that from Tomino in the first place. We just consume Gundam and be like, haha, Char's being silly again. He's such a lolicone, oh my god. It really shows you that if people like the characters of your media property, you can get away with any amount of, like, retarded narrative. I was complaining about the Chainsaw Man upcoming ending for, like, 2 hours in our last stream, but it's just a really good example of how, as long as people like the characters, they're willing to overlook any amount of stupidity in terms of the plot. Lace is hard to draw. And so are these, like, fantasy detail things. Just, like, vague shapes, embroidery shapes. I don't know what they are. But they have to be done. They're an integral part of drawing fantasy, is having, like, these kinds of, like, squiggly shit. Recently watched Magical Shopping Arcade Abenobashi Gainax was something special despite the controversial endings. Some may argue that Magical Shopping Arcade Abenobashi is their best work. Some may say, because they weren't taking themselves seriously, they were just having fun. Fantasy plants are always hard for me to draw. You need a huge visual library. You mean like these things that you have to put on the side of like all your books and shit? I have a ton of difficulty with that stuff. Or if you're talking about actual plants, like you want to draw ferns and stuff in the corner of like a background, like a potted plant, then you don't need to actually like think about fantasy plants. You can just look at real plants. Most people can't identify the difference between like an actual botanically accurate real plant and a fantasy plant, so I don't think you have to worry about like imagining up a real plant. You just draw like an actual plant, just look at actual photos. But the embroidery also you have references for. Nobody's asking you to do something new. What you need to do is look at references. This is usually the solution for basically 99% of problems that come from drawing, is like, just look at more references, bro. That's what all the professionals do, is they just have a massive amount of references. Bullshit it, make something that seems cool. You actually can't bullshit it. It's actually harder to bullshit stuff than to just look at references in many cases. Because bullshitting is usually like drawing a simplified version of it that looks correct, but isn't actually correct, but will register as correct, which is often like the second step that you get to after you've looked at the references. It's like a more advanced form of symbol drawing. Like, I was reading the One Piece SNS, SBS, I forgot what they call it, the extra corner, and one of the readers was talking to Oda, and he was like, Oda Sensei, one of your characters is holding a bouquet of flowers and the other person is holding a bouquet of flowers as well. And I saw that one of them are properly drawn roses and the other are like extremely, easy, simple drawings. Why are you like, not trying hard on one of them? And he's like, LMAO, I'm not trying hard for either. And then the one that he was accused of being simple drawing, he was drawing like flowers like this, right? And then the reader is like, why aren't you drawing it like the rose bouquet on the left? Like this was one of his bouquets. And then Oda was like, no, both of them I'm cheating. So this was how Oda drew his roses. He was like, he showed in the SBS, he was like, here's how you draw roses. You draw a triangle, you draw another triangle, draw another triangle, you draw another triangle. There, you have a rose. Something like that. And I was like, damn, Oda really knows his simple drawing, like how to make something that looks okay. Even with like the see, that looks like a rose right here. That looks really good right there. Even with like the minimum amount of lines, Oda really knows how to do those kinds of things. This is the best one that I made so far. Excuse my ignorance, but who is Oda? One Piece mangaka I see. Alright, Totem Poland, SFW. You were fucking baiting me last stream, but everybody was pointing out that I was being baited, so now I remember you, and now I know I'm onto you now, you stupid motherfucker. I'm not gonna get fooled twice. You're not tricking me this time. You're not onto shit, you take bait regardless? True. But I was able to ignore the bait when people started talking about shitting nipple dicks earlier in the stream, so... I'm evolving, guys. You can't bait me every time. Bait me once. Shame on you. Bait me twice. Shame on me. Or something. I don't know. Alright, that's enough fake AI fantasy music. I'll listen to fake synthwave, chillwave AI music instead. This chat is full of masturbators. He's been drawing for more than 2 decades. I expect him to know some pretty good tips and tricks. Have any of you read Wanted? It's like a full volume of all the one-shots that Oda did before he got the One Piece serialized. And you can really see how his drawing style evolved. It's pretty interesting. I'm sure it's up online. It's honestly only interesting from a perspective of like understanding how Oda's technique evolved, as is often the case with one-shots, but it is a good look into how everybody kind of sucked back in the day, guys. That's the truth. We all kind of sucked at the beginning. It's just that the ones who get good and become professionals are the ones who don't give up. I feel like One Piece's style lost some of its identity over the years. A lot of people who really liked One Piece during the first half really disliked the character designs in the second half after the time skip. That's usually what everyone starts complaining about shit. A lot of people are just like, no, fuck the time skip, I hate it. That's when I think Oda lost a lot of his, like, first stage of viewers. And then he's been progressively losing readers here and there for the last, like, you know, 15, 20 years and stuff as he's been doing, you know, the Wano Kuni arc for 5 or 6 years and shit like that. See, there's way too much gray in the Galleon art style, not art style, the character design, if I just make everything gray. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to add blacks and stuff to here. This isn't really a character design that was ever meant to be drawn in black and white. You'd think that I'd be pretty good at figuring out how to render colored character designs in black and white because I've been forced to do it for so long, but I'm still not very good at it. I wish I could watch One Piece, but I don't have 40 years of free time. Nobody should ever watch the anime version of a shonen manga that is full of fillers. And is going to probably have a pretty shitty budget and so on and so on. It's not something you should be spending your time on. Don't do it, guys. Just read the manga? Yeah. This is advice that works for basically every shonen. People are like, I'm watching the anime. It's like, why? Why are you watching the anime? Don't watch the anime, people. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea. Instead of reading One Piece, learn Blender. I mean, if you're reading the manga, though, you can finish it very quickly. That's the magic of manga. Even at 100 volumes, you could finish reading the One Piece manga from volume 1 to volume 100 plus within a week. You can blaze through that like 10 volumes a day pretty easily. It ain't that hard. I've read the manga like 5 times. It's a cozy read. I think I'll just jack off to the big titty Nami porn instead. Because I'm a gentleman. I understand more sophisticated content than shonen manga. Instead, I read hentai. Didn't say Robin. There's not as much Robin content, porn content, as you would think. Shockingly. I generally don't like the time skip character designs as much as the pre-time skip character designs. Like, I think most people feel that way, but I like the Nami post-time skip character design more because she looks more like a Giga Slut. More people love Robin than lust after Robin. If we're being realistic, Robin has already probably been raped like 30 times, so it's time for her to be happy. She's probably lived a really hard life. Both Robin and Hancock, when you consider what kind of... That's the weird part about One Piece, right? Is that it's a world in which really shitty stuff happens, but because it's a shonen, they're not allowed to show it. So it all has to happen in, like, flashbacks. But because, like, the world reflects the fact that shitty stuff happens, you can easily imagine that mass amounts of sexual violence is probably occurring. Meanwhile, while Nami was tied up and forced to write ocean maps all day, I'm pretty sure Arlen Park fishmen weren't interested in her sexually. So I think she's fine. I feel like Arlen had too much self-respect to stick his penis in that girl. That would be like saying, you have an aquarium in your house? Ah, I see. Surely you must have been having sex with your goldfish. After all, what is a man gonna do alone in his room with all those fish? Yes. Only one thing to do with fish, have sex with them. I feel like that's how Arlen feels about having sex with human women, so... Arlen most likely just beat the woman in Nami's island. Yes, Arlen was extremely based and red-pilled, as we like to call it. He just spent his time committing violence. What a great guy. He had his Bada octopus henchman to satisfy him. As a fishman, I'm only interested in ejaculating into the ocean and hoping my semen will somehow travel and inseminate the thousands of female mermaid eggs that have been nestled in rock beds at the bottom of the ocean. I don't actually do penetrative sex. That would be fucked up. We just shoot our load and let the tides take it wherever. I'm gonna give you a name, Murakami Teduraki. I can't remember. Wait, which one was that? I'm pretty sure I've read his stuff. Oh yeah, I remember. The overly exaggerated slurp guy whose stuff was so distinct after they made the Taimanin Asagi anime by him. It was like too deep in the zone, so they had to like remake it because people were like, this is fappable, and other people were like, no, this is not fappable, so they had to make a more like vanilla version of the Taimanin Asagi anime because the Murakami Teduraki version was like too much slurping, so... I guess this doesn't make sense. I love male characters who have a jerk personality but heart of gold. 2000s tough guy wannabe, not today's brain dead himbos. There's still plenty of those in shoujo and stuff. There's just not as much in shonen. It's an overdone trope at this point in 2026, so it might still appear in shoujo, where they basically want a himbo. And ironically, that is a himbo trope at this point. A lot of female-oriented media feature like kind-hearted yakuza and stuff like that. So I heard a rumor that Lilith blacklisted him for wanting to release an uncensored version like his older works like Kuroai. It wouldn't surprise me. We're finding out that the Lilith company is a pretty shitty company, which isn't that surprising because it's an eroge company, but like they've got into some kind of fight with some of their other artists, like Aoi Nagisa recently, and he might have been removed or something. I don't know. All sorts of accusations that they might be using AI recently and all sorts of shit. So, you know, if it turns out that Lilith was angry with their artist, it wouldn't be the first time. Lilith has accomplished great things in the industry as being kind of like the cutting edge of stuff that's just degenerate enough for normal people without going into like pure fetish world. Like shit that's fucked up but like not too fucked up, which is exactly where my wheelhouse is. But nobody has said they're a bunch of great guys, because they're not. Half of Time Editing Squad used AI for background and CG art. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, their backgrounds look like AI before AI was a thing, so honestly, it's not a big deal. If you look at any of their old, like, 2000s, like, hentai CG's backgrounds, they basically look like an extremely vague void that might as well be done using AI. AI is probably more of an improvement than a downgrade in this case. Anyways, I respect the Murakami energy of extremely intense, ugly face, slurp slurp blowjob, but it's not something that I go back to very often. It's more like, good for you, but once I've seen it once, I don't need to see it again and again. Aren't some artists mad about Digital Foundry right now? Something about AI Gen upscale and RE9 ruining the art direction? Were they using AI upscaling? I mean, man, at this point, it's just like whatever. Honestly, I'm surprised that AI isn't being used more. It's not like these companies care about, you know, their artists or anything like that. It's always been just trying to get something out at the bare level of acceptable quality. They just introduced DLSS5 with AI upscaling. It just adds shit and looks stupid. Like, is this what, for 4K resolution? Shouldn't we just be able to do everything in like 1440 at least? Without doing any upscaling? I feel like even if you have a 4K monitor, if your computer is strong enough to display shit in 1440p, I feel like that's more than enough in terms of, like, resolution. Honestly, I can only slightly tell the difference between 4K and 1440p resolution when I'm squinting super hard and looking at the monitor super hard. I can tell the difference, but only a little bit. The number one difference I can tell in is that my laptop has to work like 80 times harder if it's 4K. You can hear it immediately straining to, you know, render an extra, like, how many more fucking pixels every single second. So we may as well just play in 1440. 1080 does feel a little blurry though in 2026, but anywhere above 1440 is I don't think is necessarily needed. You don't understand graphic is out, AI is in, but isn't upscaling using AI to make the graphics? If you're just talking about the buzzwords, then you're definitely right, but I don't play on PC, so can the PC gamers explain to me the experiences they have trying to play AAA games with the various upscaling RTX on bullshit? Because as a console gamer, I just take whatever, you know, the Tecmo graphics department gives me, and it runs fine. I don't get to make any real adjustments myself, right? So I'll explain it better. You know the mundane face you see in Gen AI faces, now that's in games, that's why people are pissed. What, is this specifically for Resident Evil 9? Because that sounds like a problem that's not an AI problem, but instead everybody is using Unreal Engine kind of problem. We've had that already for many years. It's just like everything looks the same because everyone's just using Unreal Engine 4, and then nobody could figure out how to use Unreal Engine 5, so actually that improved the problem a little bit because people couldn't figure out what to do with Unreal Engine 5 and make it run properly. It's nonsense, I turned them off. The only time I've had an RTX option as a console gamer was with Resident Evil 4 Remake. Capcom had for PS5 players, you could go on into the menu and turn RTX on and RTX off, and I could tell that it had slightly better lighting with the RTX on. I didn't think it was unnoticeable, and I care enough about graphics that I was like, yeah, this is fine, I'll play it with RTX and like 30 frames per second instead of prioritizing my gamer frame rate credit. I have really shitty reflexes, so even if I'm playing at 120 frames per second, I mean, it looks a little bit more smoother, but I'm not like, I don't need the super high frame rate for my like super god reactions, because I don't have those god reactions anyway, so it doesn't really matter. RTX is generally simulating lights instead of using smokes and mirrors. In many cases, the smokes and mirrors look better, right? If we're thinking about old video games, because they would often be like a fully planned out shot of like a specific location instead of like the director would be like, we want to give the player this kind of like emotional impression with the lighting in this scene, and then the lighting would be very specific, and often that would look better than whatever like RTX technological bullshit we figured out. But if the game is built with being like, no, we can just simulate it with RTX, then you may as well just turn the RTX on. If your computer can handle it, of course. The people being mad that Bloodborne is still only on 30 frames per second just need to get over themselves. The Bloodborne frame rate is legitimately horrible, though. It really does look stiff. It's pretty noticeable, even for someone like me, who doesn't notice lower frame rates. The Bloodborne frame rate is a very noticeable low frame rate. You can tell the PS4 is struggling to render the 10,000 assholes of psychotic pigs that Miyazaki had to put into every single part of the map. I want to see my character's pores for immersion. That's the thing, we really don't need like better hair simulation. Especially when the female characters are so ugly, who cares? There's like 2 pigs in the whole game? Yeah, but I farmed the same pig 100 times to get, because it's the best way for obtaining souls at the earlier stages of the game. There's like 3 or 4. You're wrong. There's like the 2 pigs in the Dream Gal area that people like farm the shit out of. I know I farmed the shit out of them when I wanted to like build something. I'd be like, time to go farm pigs again. And then there's like at least one. No, there's one in Old Yarnum, I think. And there's one in the swamp. So I think there's at least 4. There's probably a few more actually that I'm forgetting about. They're a great source of echoes. I tried replaying Bloodborne recently, and I was like, surely I've played a lot of Souls games since then, so I've gotten better and I should be able to stomp this game. And I was stomping the earlier areas, but then eventually I hit a boss when I started dying, and I was like, shit, I guess I haven't gotten that much better. And then it got to the point where I was like, ah, fuck, I'm out of blood vials. And to this day, I will never get over the fact that they made the design decision of making your resource for healing to be something you can run out of, and you have to go and like farm it. That's like one of the worst mechanics I can ever think of all time in a game that's built around you like dying and trying to beat the same boss many times repeatedly. Being like, yeah, we'll just have them run out of fucking blood vials and you have to go and get more. Oh, and not only can you can buy them, but they were like, yeah, let's make sure that the price of the blood vial goes up as you get farther in the game. So at every single point in the game, if you get stuck on a hard boss, you can run out of blood vials and you won't be able to just buy more. It's like a legitimately anti-fun mechanic that had no reason to be in the game, especially because this is after Dark Souls, so they already knew that it makes the game less fun if you have to be constantly like getting more reusable healing items. So why the fuck did they go back to that? It's a pretty fucking retarded decision. LOL owned Get Good. Yeah. That basically comes down to like every single Dark Souls like video game mechanic discussion. It's just like the FromSoft drones being like, LMAO, look, he's bad at the video game. Look at how bad he is at the video game. All of this would be solved if he was just beat the game immediately like I did because I'm so good at video games. That's basically what every argument just boils down to. Look at the streamer. Look how bad he is at games. I did beat all of the Bloodborne bosses, including Orphan of Kos. What was it? Was it called Orphan? Was it Orphan of Kos? I think it was Kos. Some say Kos, others say Kosum. I usually don't buy the DLC of pretty much any game, even games I really like. Like, I absolutely love Nioh 2, but because I love Nioh 2 so much, I never played the DLC because I figured it kind of had like the best ending for me. I don't really need anything more after I beat the ending of Nioh 2. I was like, that's a perfect game. I feel so good, I actually don't need to play any more of it. But for Bloodborne, I did beat the DLC. Kos, the holy Persian word for pussy. Don't appropriate my culture for your gaming boss fights. What if I call it Kosum instead of Kos? Mikolash said that some say that it's Kosum. Nioh 2 has the best DLC, bro. Yeah, but for me, the whole, like, Hide's story ended so cleanly. I didn't want to do any, like, extra. I didn't want an epilogue, you know? Like, the shit that happens in the epilogue from a historical perspective isn't exactly, like, the most feel-good content. Like the sieging of Osaka Castle and shit like that. That stuff isn't exactly that fun. Or is that the DLC of Nioh 1? I don't remember. I need a better PC for Nioh 3. Fuck my life. I can't tell if Nioh 3, I can't run it just because of my computer not being good enough, or because, like, it's specific issues with like, that game. Because, like, my computer is definitely too underpowered to play Nioh 3, but, like, I feel like I should be able to run it if I turn all the settings to, like, the absolute lowest. But it's still, it spurgs out and gives me those, like, some kind of CPU errors, apparently. I can play it when I get my PS5 back, but that's going to be a long time in the future. I don't know. I might go back to America sooner than I think. I don't know. It all depends. Because a lot of the airfare is controlled by my mother, so she has all these miles saved up. So if she's like, why don't you come back to the United States? I bought you a ticket, then I will come back to the United States. And then I'll probably take, like, my PS5 back to Japan in that process, so it might happen before instead of later, but chat really loves Nioh 2. My brother's actually proud. Nioh 2 is the game where it separates the pretender from drone who thinks that Dark Souls is the hardest game ever made, from actual people who enjoy action video games and can enjoy Japanese history kino. Nioh 2 is the thinking man's game, both in terms of game mechanics and story, because the story is good if you have an understanding of Japanese history, but it won't make sense if you don't. If you do understand, like, various things that occurred during the Sengoku period, suddenly it becomes a very good storyline. Because they take all these, because it's written for Japanese high schoolers who have actually been forced to take Japanese history courses, not like Americans who are coming into the setting without any knowledge, so it looks interesting, but I can't get into looter games. A lot of people complain about the loot, but it's not actually a looter game unless you're getting into, like, the end game content. You just ignore the loot aspect if you're just playing it through normally. You just use the most recent thing that drops, and then you just, like, automatically click everything and, like, sell everything that's old. The looting part is extremely optional. At least in your first playthrough. And your first playthrough is just a get good kind of game. And you can engage with the loot if you want to, but it's not really necessary. If the mere action of being forced to press X to collect all those things that dropped after you killed a boss, if that mere action pisses you off, then I guess there's nothing I could do to recommend it to you, but... Although, if you're playing on PC, there probably is like a mod that just turns off loot completely. That's the good thing of playing on PC, right? There's always a mod for anything. It's a way that's mostly a mental drain on whatever bullshit I have going on. How can you live in the modern society in which everybody is supposed to have like their dopamines activated by seeing a lot of like flashy lights and a bunch of shit drop out of the asshole of a boss when you kill it? Dopamine must be activated. It being not necessary is part of what makes it annoying to me, because it offers more replayability and more creativity for the people who are willing to engage with it. That's why. When they start ramping up the difficulty, then you can engage with the loot system and start to do like crazy build with it that break the game. But if you're just playing through it in the first time, then you don't need to break the game to beat it, so that's why. It's not for casuals like you. It's for the hardcore Neo heads who have been doing their like go into hell mode and fight demons in hell for like 100 floors, and they never come out of living weapon, and they just stay in living weapon for like 10 minutes at a time. I do more Souls for PvP in any case. I love hunting down players like the animals they are. See, that's where I feel like it's kind of a waste of time, because the game has been clearly completely unbalanced around PvP, and then the netcode is so shitty. So me just like minding my business and enjoying the world of Dark Souls, and then some guy that's named XX Sephiroth 420XX who has wasted like 30 hours of their time creating their optimum build invades my universe and like backstabs me for 1 trillion damage. I don't like feel anything. I'm not like, no, I got trolled. I'm just like, whatever. You know, it's just a minor annoyance to me. It means nothing. It's like, I hope you're having fun. You play really fucking dirty. Half of the time people are doing like, honorable bowing shit anyways. Who cares? Milady, I must bow before I fight in honorable combat. I'm just not interested in any kind of PvP if the game hasn't been properly built around it. Like, Dark Souls netcode is so shit. I played a little bit of PvP in Armored Core 6, and I was just like, yeah, nah. It hasn't been properly balanced. Too many people are running the same builds. It's not interesting. Also, the whole, if I can't get a game going in PvP quickly, that's the #1 reason I stopped playing both Armored Core and Dark Souls PvP. If the connection process isn't like immediate and smooth, then I'm immediately just out. Like, I ain't doing that. Like, you have to have an excellent, like, connecting system. Armored Core 6, like, you would get in a lobby and it would take you like a solid 3 minutes before you could like get in a match with somebody. I don't have time for that. If I'm gonna do that, I'm just gonna like play Street Fighter and like actually get a match immediately. The experience has to be smooth. I cannot be bothered to wait in basically any kind of game. Like, if you haven't figured out a system for, like, getting me to immediately into the action that I am playing. My era of, like, waiting for shit to happen ended when I stopped playing Final Fantasy XI. And even then, I started playing Final Fantasy XI with a monk character, and about 20 hours in, I realized if I wanted to get in parties and immediately get matchmaking, I would need to play a tank, so I started playing a tank specifically for that reason. So yeah, I can't be dealt with to deal with downtime. It has to be immediate. Bro, that's why I could not play Overwatch. Fuckers did not want to be healer, so my ass waited in queue. 15-minute queue. I mean, also any kind of 6-man hero shooter, if you start getting into the upper ranks, if it doesn't have a huge population, you're going to be waiting like 5 to 10 minutes in queue. So your reward for getting better at the game means you have to wait longer and longer before you get to play it. Because they're not going to let you just stomp on Timmies at low ranks, so... I miss the days of self-made lobbies. Yes, but that would be too much fun. People aren't allowed to just go and have fun on their own terms. Too many people were having fun in their swastika-themed Hitler did nothing wrong lobby, and that for some reason got banned. Who would have thought? ...2000s gaming, I don't know. I don't actually know how custom lobbies work because I don't ever actually play those games with custom lobbies, but I do know that I was playing Call of Duty Black Ops, and Treyarch, in their infinite wisdom, thought it would be a great idea if people could design their own emblems. And shockingly, that resulted in some of the most creative artwork you've ever seen. People just turned out to be great artists who had so much talent. No, they were not. They were either using an image that was based off of a template, because like actually talented artists would show you like how to create a cool image. Actually, we can do like the 3 different Black Ops emblems. Black Ops Emblem 1. It would be like this. This is Black Ops Emblem 1. Black Ops Emblem 2. Extremely poorly, crudely created swastika-like object. Black Ops Emblem 3 is actually using like the gun silhouettes they have. And it would be like these colors don't run These were like the 3 different options. Oh, one more, 4. The Mount Rushmore of Black Ops emblems right here. APB had custom clothes, cars, and logos. There was more anime titties than swastikas. Well, this is what happens when your player base is both like the most normie shit possible, but also composed mainly of like 12-year-olds. At least there's still COD-sanctioned weed now. I mean, you knew they were going to get COD-sanctioned weed at some point when they had fucking Snoop Dogg doing their announcers for kill streaks and shit. The weed-themed whatever was only a matter of time. Snoop Dogg has probably been the most successful person who has made using drugs the primary aspect of his personality. Although I guess there's Cheech and Chong before him, if you think about it. Those were people that truly, like, their entire joke was LMAO, smoke weed every day. Literally the only joke. Their entire movie has one joke. Weed, LMAO. And people are like, these guys are icons. My fucking hero. You could say they're the biggest victims of weed being legalized. It goes from like a counterculture thing to just like everybody is going to the local weed shop and just buying weed every day, so... Seth Rogen, Seth Rogen like comes in slightly behind Snoop Dogg and Cheech and Chong, so... But yeah, he's pretty far up there. Bro, weed. What about the weed, bro? I smoked weed once. I didn't find it particularly entertaining. It just made my brain feel slightly numb. I don't really need drugs to make me feel numb. I need drugs to, you know, make me smarter or something. So, you know, cocaine. Cocaine and meth. That's what I actually need. Just kidding, Twitch. I would never use those illegal substances. That's wrong. Guys, cocaine and meth are very dangerous. Don't use them. The same, except I got sad. Weed isn't for me. I mean... A lot of people use drugs that make them feel sad, like alcoholics. It's pretty interesting. You'd think that they should just not use it, but, you know, it's an addictive substance, so... I like how, in the beginning, we're like, actually, weed is benign, and no amount of using weed could possibly lead to bad outcomes, and now we're like, we spoke too soon. It turns out that the weed that we were promoting in 1990 as safe is not the same weed that we're giving people in, you know, 2026. That was a really bad idea. It turns out that we were forgetting about the whole part in which, when something is legal, people can, like, breed new varieties of it and refine it and make it more powerful, and now, like, you know, it's an entirely new class of drug. Weed's still illegal over here. That's another good thing about Japan. It's not full of potheads. The Japanese know so little about weed. It's always kind of endearing whenever they talk about it, and you have to explain to people what marijuana is on the news before, like, you can actually go into any kind of discussion. Japanese have no idea what... Also, they also, like, always they greatly overestimate the effects of weed. They're like, holy shit. It's like, it's actual like reefer madness territory in Japan, like in terms of how exaggerated they think how bad weed is and stuff. It's like, bro, Japan, you guys do way more bad shit to your health by like all the drinking than, you know, the weed. Of course, the younger generation of Japanese people aren't as drinking as much either anyways, so... these lines are not correct. Scientists didn't expect people to go full-on part of their identity. I feel like, actually, weed was more part of your identity in the previous, like, illegal stage of weed, like with Cheech and Chong and stuff like that. Whereas the modern-day weed user, they don't really have to work very hard to get it. They don't have to be part of it as a cultural thing. They're just, they just, like, smoke every day and they don't really think about the consequences. It's just like a normal substance. They're just addicted to it. It's not that complicated. Ah! There's one Lupin movie where they smoke it and animators didn't know how to using a bong worked. Yeah, seems about right. Japanese people just don't use much recreational drugs other than alcohol. It's all a mystery for them. It's very quaint and endearing. It's like, look at these silly Asians. They don't know how to properly get high on the marijuana. Smoke shop bong art is the most hideous shit I've ever seen. It's definitely a lower standard that they're being held to than even, say, anime lolicon art. It turns out that once your brain is fried on smoking marijuana every day, you're not really capable of being an effective artist or really an effective anything. Weed is only good in terms of, like, it's better than becoming an alcoholic, which is probably one of the absolute worst things you can do to your body. So we probably should not promote it as a safe alternative. Not using weed is better for you guys. Just don't smoke it. We're already dumb enough as people. We don't need a special drug that somehow makes us dumber. Part of every East Asian starter pack. I don't see many people smoking, actually, in the current day and age. I think it's just because Japanese society has made sure to tell them that they're not allowed to smoke in public areas anymore. I think all the boomers are still smoking. But Japan is a society in which when society tells people to do a specific thing, the people will actually do that specific thing instead of being like, nah, fuck you. In America, if you tell people that, you know, spewing exhaust out of your truck's tailpipe is bad for the environment and everyone around them, the truck owner is like, LMAO, this means I should do it more. Look at this fucking bicyclist, fucking piece of shit, blocking my road. It is illegal for me to run this person over, but instead I will spend a lot of money so that my truck spews out exhaust on them. and then me and my buddy will high five because we've supported the American ideal of freedom by polluting the environment. I unironically think that people who do rolling coal shit with their trucks should be given the death penalty. That's not even me being hyperbolic, because think about it. If someone is going to go out of their way to modify their truck just to be a public nuisance, what else are they going to do that's going to make the world better in any way? Like, there are legitimately people that do not need to exist on this planet. So if you modify your truck to do rolling coal shit, I think you should be given the electric chair. It would be a net positive to the planet and society as a whole. BaalBud versus the USA. Thankfully, I'm not in the USA anymore, so I don't have to worry about being against it or whatever. Speaking about versus the USA themes, is there anything funnier than Trump being like, we need to secure the oil, other countries need to help guard the tankers as they go through the Strait of Hormuz, and when other countries are like, we don't want to, you just immediately started this war, this isn't really our problem, and then Trump starts getting angry, he's like, fine. We don't need your help anyways. It's just like, bro, can you at least try and make up your mind? Trump is like, really is the combination of like a 12-year-old and also like a senile boomer at the same time. It's just art of the deal, buddy. When Trump says art of the deal, he just means like he's gonna flip the table and walk away if something he doesn't like happens. He's not actually good at making deals. It's also what he did in Iran. He didn't actually try and make a deal. Murdering the entire country's cabinet is not a deal. In fact, name the actual deals that Trump has made. He basically hasn't made any real deals in either of his terms in office, if you think about it. He just unilaterally imposes shit on people. Some banger polymarket insider trading, though. Does he even need to do insider trading? Doesn't he just need to ask the Saudis to, like, buy his crypto or some shit? I guess you can always want more money. It would be cool if we had a functional SEC, but... sadly, that is not the case. Have you tried Slay the Spire 2 yet? Yeah, I bought Slay the Spire, and the reason why you're not getting as many pictures, I don't know if it's noticeable or not, is because I've been playing, like, maybe about 4 hours of Slay the Spire per day since release. The low amount of output will continue until Slay the Spire has been beaten, which is never. I wish they'd hurry up and add the heart, though. It bugs me that you can only get up to the Architect and get your ass beaten by the Architect, and it's going to be like this for the next year and a half. And then he gets to taunt you every time. He doesn't even taunt you, he just kills you and it's just like, go away, please. It's good narrative design, at least. It gets you hyped up for when you can actually, like, win. What is beaten in Slay the Spire 2? A10? Well, you can't really beat it right now. Narrative-wise, you definitely can't beat it. All these characters keep on climbing the spire, and they're like, grrr. And then the Architect is like, please go away, I pity you, and then he kills you. So until we get the final boss battle and probably the fourth act in which you fight probably an elite plus the heart or something, we ain't gonna be allowed to beat it. I thought heart is replaced by Architect. If you look at the stage of the Architect, you see in the background, the heart is in the background of the Architect stage when you meet the Architect. And it's attached to all these pipes and stuff. So my theory is that they're probably going to revive the heart. It was such an iconic enemy. I think it's going to be... Architect is going to be the Spire Shield... Spire, Spear, and Shield fight. The elite before the heart, which is sometimes harder than the heart fight, and then we'll get a heart fight. I'm pretty confident we're going to get a heart fight in some format. I don't know if it'll be the final boss, but I think it will be. You know what game you can beat? Eugenics? I'm not playing Eugenics. I don't care. I'm probably going to get into Slay the Spire 2 eventually. 1 was pretty fun. I think Slayer the Spire 2, even its advanced stage, or early stage, not advanced stage, the opposite of advanced stage, even in the current stage, it feels better balanced than Slay the Spire 1, even though there's a lot of mechanics that are clearly, like, still undercooked and stuff. Like, they took the things that were broken automatic run winners, like Corruption, for example, and they made it into a boss reward. So you can't just be like... The thing about Slay the Spire 1 that I enjoyed it, but I thought also was like, this is a cope for people who are shitty like myself, was like, if you were playing Ironclad and you just got a Corruption and Dead Branch, that was just an automatic win, you know? There were a few things in Slay the Spire 1 that were basically automatic wins. And I feel like they removed most of that in Slay the Spire 2. It's definitely a harder game, I feel. Maybe not at the lower Ascensions, but at the higher Ascensions, I think it's definitely a harder game. Had an insane run with Necro today, doing 300 damage per attack. Which mechanic were you using? Were you using Osti hit point damage or something else? Corruption Dead Branch is still an auto win. Is there Dead Branch in the game? I haven't encountered it yet. I've only seen Corruption and I didn't take it. So far, I've had most of my most broken wins with Necro myself as well. I feel like when Necro spirals, she spirals really hard. Oh, the power that makes your first attack deal 75% more damage, stack 3 of those. Yeah, I've used that as well. For that being 1 energy, it's very, very strong, especially because it's like every turn. For Necro, I feel like her weakest mechanic is offensive Doom on the enemies. Doom is good when you're using it to generate it on yourself by applying it to yourself, but it feels very weak when you're trying to use it as an offensive option because the enemy being allowed to attack after you've applied their hit points worth of Doom can be like fatal so often on your side. Any kind of hit point lost is such a big issue that that extra turn they get, it feels like too much. So I feel like they're going to have to tune Doom a little bit. I had infinite poison, shield slide, draw had easily 999 shield each turn and 3000 poison on enemy. I think that Silent is the most poorly tuned, as in overpowered, of the characters right now. Because Sly as a mechanic is, it's too powerful. Discard was always the mechanic I used in Slay the Spire 1. I felt that I could win the most consistently with Silent. And I would just, like, when I was trying to climb to A20 and Slay the Spire 1, and I was like, I'm not actually that good at this game, so I'm just going to keep on rolling until I get a combination of, like, Hovering Kite and Tools of the Trade, and then just use Discard. That was kind of my strategy, because it felt like the most, like, luck-based win, and I wasn't smart enough to figure out how to do, like, Nightmare and stuff consistently. So, but now that they've made Discard into Sly, Discard was already provided value on its own, right? Like, because you could discard the cards you didn't want and, like, status effects and stuff that were damaging. So it already provided, like, its own value. But now that when you make it and you allow you to play, like, cards, put a lot of cards just by discarding, it feels a little broken. Ironclad feels balanced, I would say, actually. And I'm not playing Defect because I don't like Defect. I haven't even got a single win with Defect. I'll play a little bit of Defect later at some point, but I just find the Defect, his kit, to be unsatisfying. If they made Defect into a sexy girl with big boobs, I would play it. And then Regent, I feel, is definitely the weakest right now. Regent, you have to work like twice as hard to get anything done. It's like, oh, you want to do damage? Well, fuck you. You better have your second economy, your star economy, working properly. Defect is kind of mid. He needs a lot of smithing to have the decent deck. Defect is definitely the Giga Brain character. If you're very smart, like in Slay the Spire 1 for top players, the by far Watcher was like the longest win streak, but I believe the person who had the second longest win streak was some sort of like Chinese Defect player who had like a 20 or 30 win streak or something with Defect. So it shows you that if you have like the Giga Brain to make all these like orb options work, then it had like a really high ceiling. But for people who aren't smart like myself and don't want to like be spending all this time thinking about, be like, oh wait, so this will create one orb, and then this will cause the orbs to rotate, and then it'll do this, and then that'll do 6 damage, and then that'll do 8 damage, and then will give me like so many blocks. It's just like, oh, it's too much thinking. I can't fucking deal with this. So yeah. We ain't doing that. My brother showed me a region infinite where you just clone one card for infinite draw plus energy. It was a rare, but still. There's a lot of infinites in this one. I feel like they're probably going to tune that out of existence, a lot of the infinite shit. Most powerful card in Slay the Spire continues to be Skip Guard. I feel like people who have started Slay the Spire, that's the #1 thing that you need to teach them. Is you need to teach them to skip taking cards. If you're playing on Ascension 1 and you can't win, it's probably because they haven't learned that trading card games are all about having a smaller deck instead of a larger deck, so that should probably be like the #1 advice for beginners, is that don't pick up cards if you don't think it's gonna mesh well with your current build. Be very cautious of adding cards to your deck. I hope we get Watcher soon. She was so fun. I hope we get Watcher and she's wearing a limited Founders Edition micro-transaction bikini and she has big boobs. No, I never really enjoyed Watcher that much, actually. Obviously, she's very strong and all, but... The problem with Watcher is that the double damage mechanic just by itself is extremely strong. So I don't know how they're going to balance it and if they're going to actually add Watcher, but it seems like very difficult because with Watcher you could get to like Act 3 just with the original starting cards. That's how strong Rage was. I'm more interested in getting Heart added than new characters added. Although, to be fair, I'm struggling just to win on like Ascensions above 5, so I don't really need any more difficulty. I prefer to play video games where I only have to like think about things for like less than 2 seconds. Absolute brain dead gameplay. Let's just play Cookie Clicker. I have never actually played Cookie Clicker. Is Cookie Clicker just a game in which you click and then you get more things? That's like the only mechanic? I don't know how it works. I know that there's now a lot of video games where you just ignore the video game and it plays itself. And people are like, this is the best game in which you don't have to play it. And I'm like, that's not a game, dude. But people already have to do stressful things in their real life. They just want things to give them the sense of dopamine hit without them having to actually accomplish anything. It's pretty funny. We really have reached the final stage of video games when we're like, guys, don't worry, you don't have to play this video game. We'll give you the accomplishment even if you don't play it. Auto clicker and cookie clicker becomes idle game. I'm sure they already have this on DL site somewhere, but we should sell clitoris clicker. There's a MILF, and then you click on her clitoris, and the more times you click on her, the more times she experiences orgasms and continues to give you more and more stuff. This looks really good. Should I know who the characters are, or are they OCs? Of course you should know who the characters are. Don't you play 18 different gachas like the average modern phone gamer? Phone gamer aren't real and they can't hurt me. Unfortunately, they are real and they make up like 70% of the video game industry's revenue at this point. Average gacha consumer, unfortunately, is more of a desirable customer than you will ever be because they waste all of their money on a JPEG of a cute girl while you expect a properly developed video game. While the gacha consumer is easily satisfied. Alright, this needs to be fully black right here. I found one of the stupidest guys I ever met online on Twitter, and he had over 100,000 followers for a DBZ gacha game. Was it Dokapon Battle? I've heard that Dokapon Battle has some of the craziest whales, even among how bad gacha is. I've also heard that Dokapon Battle has some of the worst, like, most abusive gacha rates and shit, which is saying a lot, because this is an industry known for abusing its customers. So to be able to earn the, yeah, this is the worst gacha out there. That's pretty impressive. Don't you want Goku? The 10 million different variations of Goku? Yeah. I like how Dragon Ball Fighter Z not only has like 8 different Gokus, but like the top meta is like which Goku you're using as well. I have a lot of respect for Toriyama Akira because he's one of like the most talented artists of all time, but the fan base he attracted is some of the dumbest people of all time. And by that, we're of course talking about everybody in South America. We're insulting you, my Mexican brothers. Dragon Ball is something that needs to be enjoyed with like your brain turned off, of course, so it's not particularly shocking that the people who would also play the gacha would be people who not exactly are the smartest. Fuck you, yeah. What's the strongest Dragon Ball fanbase country? Because, like, there's a lot of candidates, right? There's like 8 different countries in Latin America that would be like Goku, Takiera, and it's like Brazil is in there too as well, right? I guess Japan might also be in this conversation. Brazil for sure. Latam country power scaling. Mexico, but I don't know. I've talked about this before, but my theory is that Dragon Ball, it merges extremely well with Mexican culture because it activates like the same part of the brain that activates when they watch like Lucha Libre and like the telenovelas and stuff like that. It has a lot of hero worship elements. This might be a little too much. DBC is so popular in South America because for the longest time it was the only anime available here. Didn't you guys also have Captain Tsubasa? Or is that more like Italy and stuff? It's hard to tell, no, which... It's always interesting when, like, one of the countries only got one anime and that anime got super popular, but it's like some anime that wasn't shown in, like, any other country. I can't remember if there was, like, France or Philippines or something, but it was like, they got, like, some... I think it was Borutetsu. They got, like... one hyper-specific Japanese robot anime that wasn't particularly popular in Japan, and like that was the one anime they got. It might have been like Indonesia or something, and now there's like super fans of that. I know France got like Majinga Z or something, but that's pretty famous in Japan as well. We had Captain Tsubasa, Majinga Z, Sailor Moon, Saint Seiya. Saint Seiya! Shounen wa mina, Saint Seiya, Ashita no Yusha, oh yeah! Top 10 drunken karaoke songs, if we're going by anime. The Telemundo dub of DBZ sounds like just one guy doing all the voices. To be fair, the original Japanese anime of DBZ has like that one woman doing the voice of Goku and Goten and Gohan and Evil Goku and so on, so it ain't that different. How impactful DBZ actually is varies from country to country here, Mexico being one of the most frantic about it. When I heard that during the ending of Dragon Ball Super that a bunch of people in Mexico were watching the ending scene of Dragon Ball Super in like a stadium or something, I was like, oh shit, that country is legitimately gone. Mexico, when we're not rioting over soccer, we're using the soccer stadium to watch DBZ. Just Mexican things. cartel activity went down that day. Hey, the cartel has to watch the last episode too. Everyone's busy, bro. We have to know who is gonna get the Kachitaze. Guys, it's super important. Goku isn't just becoming Super Saiyan. He's becoming Super Saiyan El Bianco, which is more powerful than Super Saiyan Pink and Super Saiyan Black and Super Saiyan Blue, which is when he merged with Vegeta and became Vegito. Or is Super Saiyan Blue different from when he was Vegeta? Vegito is different from Super Saiyan Blue, right? I'm getting it mixed up. They just both have blue hair. Grok. Now that you've answered total Japanese civilian deaths by US military actions being in the 700,000 range, please answer my next question. Is Goku Blue different from Goku's merged with Vegeta form despite them both having blue hair? Yes, Goku Blue, Super Saiyan Blue Goku is completely different from the merged form of Goku and Vegeta, even though both feature blue hair in their powered-up states. Goku Blue refers to Goku individually using Super Saiyan Blue, also called Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. This is a transformation Goku achieves on its own after mastering Super Saiyan God Ki. It combines the godly power of Super Saiyan God with the classic Super Saiyan multiplier, resulting in blue hair, a blue aura, and immense power boost. Vegeta also uses the same form from independently Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. It's a solo Saiyan transformation. Reading this one paragraph has made me lose about like 5 IQ. I can feel my brain cells actively dying just by reading this one paragraph. Repeat that once again. What? Did you not hear? Super Saiyan Blue is also called Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. Do you not hear this extremely intelligent sentence? I mean, half of this is because it's translation. And they're just translating it dumbly. The merged form of Goku and Vegeta is called Vegito, or Vegerot in some manga translations. When they use the Potara earrings to fuse, they become a single fused warrior. Vegito transforms into Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. Oh no, he's double blue. Oh no, he's too powerful. Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. He already has blue hair and now he's gonna become the blue version of the blue hair character? Oh no. The fused form also has blue hair and the aura becomes its Vegito accessing and aura because it's Vegito accessing the same Super Saiyan Blue transformation but as a fused being. Vegito's base power is exponentially higher due to the Potara fusion multiplier far beyond what Goku or Vegeta can achieve alone. This reads like I'm reading like the Sonichu wiki or something. This is the cringiest shit. It's so brain dead it feels like something a child would write. Please explain why Super Saiyan God Goku is much more powerful than Superman. Thank God we have this technology. Super Saiyan God Goku from Battle of Gods arc in early Dragon Ball Super is often argued to be much more powerful than standard versions of Superman, like post-Crisis, New 52, or Rebirth iterations, due to Dragon Ball's scaling and feats reaching universal multiversal levels far earlier in the series timeline, while Superman's consistent showings top added solar system to multi-solar system or occasionally higher with heavy context amp defended feats. In his debut fight against Beerus, their clashes in Super Saiyan God form created shockwaves that threatened to destroy Universe 7, the macro universe in Dragon Ball, including all its realm, galaxies, and space-time structure. Good thing Bulma didn't die from catching a stray just because Goku was feeling waku waku. Am I right, guys? This is actually like on the level of Lovecraftian horror, if you think about it. The entire concept of Lovecraftian horror is that we're tiny, insignificant creatures in the face of these space gods that could just like wipe us from our existence without even thinking about it, and we wouldn't even notice, and we'd just die. But if you think about it, Goku being like, waku waku, I'm starting to get excited that there's all these strong guys around me. This makes me want to fight even harder, and then becoming in his Super Saiyan God form and crashing and creating shockwaves that destroy the universe because he's enjoying fighting so much is like just as bad as like, you know, Cthulhu swallowing the planet. In fact, it's even worse because Goku is just enjoying getting a good workout in. It's probably the worst version of the Lovecraftian universe. Korok is being force-fed so much power-scaling brain rot, LMAO. I'm certainly not the first person who has, given it this information. This is treated as a legitimate universal threat, low 2C on many verse scaling sites, as the shockwaves were building toward total erasure if unchecked. Beerus was stated to be capable of destroying the universe casually at full power. Superman's typical power level mainline versions. Post-Crisis Superman. I like how, in order to have this debate, you have to already be like familiar with Crisis on Multiple Earths and stuff. Like, the average person doesn't even know what Crisis means. And neither do I. I just know about Crisis on Multiple Earths, and it's like such an important like milestone in how we talk about stupid DC shit that it's just like automatically assumed that you know what it is. Impressive planetary to star level feats like towing planets, surviving supernovas, bench pressing Earth's weight for days, or punching through dimensions with effort. Meanwhile, Goku wasn't using effort, he was just waku wakuing. Goku beating Superman images. Don't feel bad, bro. Teen View magazine, how Goku could beat Superman. They're still using the GT version of Goku. Can Goku beat God? Probably. Except in the Dragon Ball universe, gods are just, they're just like nice guys generally. They're like, no, Goku, stop! You're gonna destroy the entire planet! I mean, the quote-unquote god of Earth shows up at the super early stage in the manga, if you think about it, where Goku is still a kid. And it's just like an old green guy, and you're like, is that Piccolo? It's like, no, that's God. And then you get Kaio-sama and stuff like that afterwards, but Goku is the only shonen MC voiced by a woman whose voice I find completely jarring. I mean, because they didn't change the MC when it went from kid Goku to adult Goku, right? So they had an opportunity to change it, but they're like, nah, this is fine. He will just be a child forever, and his child will also be voiced by the same woman, and when she dies, our entire anime franchise will die with her. Great strategy, guys. But yeah, that's where we are. But most of the main characters have relatively high-pitched voices in shonen anime, though. Unless it's like Kenshiro or something. Like Luffy has a relatively high-pitched voice. That kind of stuff, so... It is a tradition. Tradition meaning the female voice actors were probably cheaper? I doubt that. I don't think that's how they decide pricing. If anything, I'm pretty sure voice actresses are paid more in Japan than male voice actors. It depends, like, how famous you are, but... I have a nagging suspicion that they get paid more. I don't know enough about the anime industry to say for sure, but... If you're successful as a Japanese female voice actress, I think you get paid quite a bit. Aren't seiyus basically celebrities? Depends. There's celebrity ones, and then, you know, just like actors, there's ones that make giga dosh, and then ones that are basically living paycheck to paycheck poverty zone, so... My favorite ones are the seiyus that, they're supposed to be seiyus, but it's just the JAV company claiming that they graduated from, like, Seiyu Academy or some shit, and therefore they're a professional seiyu, so that they can promote them as being a seiyu in the porn. They're like, I wanted to be a voice actress, but now I'm a porn star. And I assume that they have enough, like, voice acting talent that they can make, like, some anime voices while they're getting fucked. Ugly bastard fucking fake seiyu being like, make the anime voice. And she's like, yeah. Usopp's voice actor doing hentai for fun. That's another thing. There's a lot of, like, professional voice actors who also dabble in eroge and stuff as well, so... In Japan, you can go into porn and then, like, you won't get, like, cut off from other parts of the industry in most cases. They have a slightly more healthy relationship with sex, I guess, than puritanical America. Professional Gluck Gluck sound effects, nice, yeah. I watched a video in which one of them explained how they make the slurping noises, and they explained that a lot of it was they were, like, sucking on their own finger and shit to make the fellatio noise. Now that I've drawn this... I think this needs to be a slightly different angle right here. They have a healthier relationship with syphilis as well, though. Not like professionals say you don't. They're just making their noises. I mean, that's just the prostitutes. Don't worry, there's plenty of those in America as well. If anything, the fact that all these Japanese prostitutes are getting syphilis says a lot about the safety of Japanese society, because all these amateur women feel secure enough that they can just be like, oh, I'll go sell my body in my spare time, because they feel confident that they're just not going to be murdered and left in an alleyway, which is something that you'd have to be pretty cautious about when you're in America. Just average serial killers showing up and killing you. In Japan, if anything, it's the opposite. There was like one woman who, I guess she negotiated receiving money from a guy, and then she beheaded him. There's all this footage of them wheeling the corpse out. I forgot what they did with the head. But I think it was part of her fetish or something. I can't remember how it worked. Let me actually look it up. I think it was like... I think it'll show up if I put in Hokkaido. It was definitely in Hokkaido, I'm pretty sure. God, I wish that was me. Hokkaido Zanshu Jiken. Huh, she's pretty attractive, although a little round-faced. I guess I'm giving a little too, So, here's the image of her. She was 30. Glasses girl. Let's see. In 2023, in Suzuki of Hokkaido, I believe is where Suzuki is. Yeah, it's a area of Sapporo. A person who was working in the hotel and noticing that the customer had not left even after the checkout time. They entered the room and found a 62-year-old man, victim A, kneeling on the ground with his head removed. They found that the cause of death was the fact that his head had been removed. Just kidding. He was stabbed in the neck multiple times and died from blood loss. He didn't just like immediately chop off his head. So it was known that this woman, in elementary school, when she was wearing an expensive looking dress and one of her classmates made fun of her, she got a box cutter and chased after him, mounted him, put the knife against his neck, and said, "If you say that again, I'll stab you." So, she was someone in this zone from the early age. Her hobby was collecting knives. She had a very strange relationship with her father. She treated both of her parents like slaves. She also liked sadomasochism and wanted to become a queen, apparently, is what she said. So, yeah, she cooperated with her father. That's why he's listed here in the beheading process. So, people who are like, I want a bad bitch to ruin my life. Yeah. This is a good example. This is a bad bitch here to ruin your life, guys. Go ahead. Apparently, after she took the decapitated head home, the next day she removed the skin off of the head and also removed both of the eyeballs and the tongue and the esophagus, and then had her father videotape it as she was removing the eyes from the head. So I need a bad bitch to ruin my life for real, guys. What's it called, those type of chicks in Japan? Red flags? Yes, it turns out that mounting a guy with a knife in elementary school and claiming that you're going to stab them in the neck with that box cutter is a red flag. You cannot fix her, it turns out. You cannot fix her at all. Jiraike? I'm not sure. Jiraike has to be hidden, you know? The whole concept of Jirai is it's a landmine, so you can't see it. But, I don't know. She seems like pretty obviously fucked up, so I don't know if you'd call that Jiraike. I think I'd call it more of a openly, easily available and observable. Her face seemed normal enough. I don't know, man. That photo is more photogenic of her, but some of the other photos. Yeah, some of the other photos kind of makes her look a little weird looking. It might be the dress. But, I'm getting pretty strong J-horror vibes from her. Like this photo. I don't know. This is giving me pretty strong stay away vibes. Like the way that, see, one thing about Japanese people is they don't stare at you directly very often. So I don't know the context of this photo, but this kind of like super direct eye contact in Japan might be like, you know, an indicator of psychosis. She also has a collar on her. Girls wearing collars is a huge red flag. They're either like hyper masochists and they're gonna ask you to like choke them, or they're gonna be, you know, the opposite and gonna behead you, so consider that. Anyways, Japan is it's a pretty safe society, so you don't get like the average American crime in which it's a bunch of black teenagers in South Central Chicago being in an ongoing gang war for the last 20 years where they keep on killing each other because their cousin got murdered 5 years ago or whatever. Or average like road rage incident in which everybody is allowed to own a gun and like you get in a slight fender bender, so instead the guy gets pissed off, he goes into his car and like brings out a handgun from the glove box and just shoots you because he's angry. You don't get much of that, but the ones that you do get are the truly psychotic people. They're of course still around because they're around in any society. Septum ring theory and collar theory. You're openly displaying to society that you are ill-adjusted and possibly crazy, I guess. The power of the septum ring. I don't know. For me, septum ring is more of an indicator of just being like a liberal. You have liberal bias, and you probably drink very expensive coffee in Brooklyn or something. Most of what we got is guys stabbing you for money or just because. I remember watching a video of Mexican cartels, and like they were interviewing one of these cartel guys, and he was like, hey man, in Mexico we have crazy violence, but it's just like normal stuff, we're just killing you for your money. America is crazy, where people just like shoot each other all the time for no reason. What is that with all your school shootings? You guys are crazy. I'm like, you know what? Cartel guy, you're right about something, man. Cartel just be like, yeah, we're just gonna kill you for your money, but America is just like, yeah, we're just gonna shoot for no reason, just because we're in a bad mood or something. That's what it means to be a free country, son. The Mexicans could never understand the amount of freedom that Americans have to be constantly being shot. Is it that hard to conceive of people with unchecked mental problems and access to guns using them to hurt others? Well, if you live in America, you know that as soon as there's a mass shooting event, the NRA supporters have to all be like, it's not a gun problem, it's a mental health problem. But then they can't actually ever explain how they're going to solve the mental health problem. They're just like, they just need to consult a therapist or something. It's like, is that gonna work? It's much easier to solve the whole, everybody gets to own a gun problem than it is to solve people have mental health issues problem, but then we wouldn't all be allowed to own guns. And that's against our freedom, so, yeah. Our noble cartel versus their barbarous school shooters. I mean, the cartel are just businessmen. The school shooters are more of hobbyists. Cartel guy proceeds to play you while you're on adrenaline because you posted something mean to his boss on social media. Social media is serious business, guys. There is one NTR hentai series that's all about all these girls getting fucked by, I can't remember if it was like hypnosis app or like the drug app or something like that, by your local like chads, standard setup and stuff. But in the afterward, there's like a Mexican drug cartel boss that just shows up in characters, and the author makes sure to write down that all the chavs that were fucking the girls in this doujin were all murdered and flayed alive by the Mexican drug cartel boss. And I kept on thinking, like, who is this for? If the author feels angry about these chavs like fucking these girls and wish they would get murdered by the drug cartels, why is he like writing this story in the first place? I thought the people who draw NTR enjoy NTR. Why is he getting so angry and feels like these guys should all get murdered by drug cartels? 'Cause it's funny? I guess? I don't know. I feel like part of the depravity of the NTR setup is that, like, the guy gets away with it scotch-free. I don't know. I'm not really an NTR consumer in the first place, so I don't really know what the appeal of it is. Don't ask me. Bumper sticker I saw once. If they take away our guns, can we get swords instead? Americans just like guns because they're like nifty. That's all. That's what it comes down to. They're just like, but I think they're so cool. They constantly cope about being like, no, we're gonna fight against the tyrannical government. We need to have them to protect our rights. And I'm like, bro, you guys are literally, your rights are getting taken away like right now by Trump. Are you gonna do anything about it? And of course they're not. All these guys who are like, no, we need these to fight the government. It's like, no, you don't. You are not fighting the government. Stop lying. Guns are awesome toys and they're fun to play with. You can have so much innocent fun with your gun. You can shoot objects at the shooting range. And if you have it in your house and somebody invades and they don't have a gun, you can shoot them. They never talk about the possibility of the Second Amendment also making it way easier for criminals to get guns, because they'll be like, no, the bad guy will always have access to guns. It's a very strange argument, because it never goes into like, but wouldn't that just like, what about just the general increase in probability that the bad guy has access to guns? Also, in general, you just get shot by your wife, you know. Having a gun in your home basically just means you're going to use it for either your wife murdering you or suicide. People are just like really waiting for that one home invasion case, but it rarely happens. The whole business thing falls apart when at least some of them are absolute psychos who get off on the insane torture they put people through. I'm sure the top is just directed psychos to kill the victims, but still. Americans need to stop buying a shit ton of drugs. That needs to be step one, I think. Although kind of difficult when they're so delicious. Turns out basing a country on the right to own firearms was a short-sighted endeavor. I mean, that's not what our country was based on, though. Our country was based on slavery. And we have tried very hard to make sure that the slaves aren't allowed to own guns and stuff. So that's definitely not true. In fact, in the Constitution it says a well-regulated militia, which is definitely not what private gun ownership is, so... The funniest thing is when, like, a black guy owns a gun and he gets shot, and then, like, you never really hear the NRA to complain about that. Because it was always meant as a law to protect white people from the looming specter of black people being angry at being kept as slaves, so... Now everyone is a slave, so nobody can have guns. Well, people don't seem to be that interested in using them. It turns out that, as bad as American life is right now, it's actually not that bad. There's still a lot of, like, people don't stand up in revolution until stuff gets pretty bad, usually. Stuff is still relatively cushy in American life right now, so we're not getting a revolution anytime soon. Meanwhile, the French are constantly rioting over there. Like, if the government wants to increase the pension age by like 2 years, suddenly people are going to try and burn down entirety of Paris, so I give them a lot of credit for that. The French laborers' approach to politics of have massive riots if they try and take away even some of the most minor of social services. Good for them. If Americans were slightly more active when it comes to protecting their labor rights instead of letting the Republican politicians dismantle unions, our wages might be a little more competitive. Nothing ever happens, as they say. Nothing ever happens versus billions must die. The duality of man. We're currently more in the billions must die phase, it feels, but we're kind of getting used to the Iran war thing, so I think we're back in the nothing ever happens zone. I imagine oil prices are going to stabilize, and then people are going to go back to being like nothing ever happens. We cuck ourselves. It is crazy how many Americans think that unions are a bad thing. Americans are extremely vulnerable to propaganda. Their tribalism blinds them to all sorts of stuff, especially Republicans voting outside their self-interest, but it's been that way for like 30 years or 50 years now, so nobody is surprised that average Republican doesn't recognize that the unions are helpful to them. Shit just happened, you're just attached to the consequences. Well, The thing about the nothing ever happens view of the world is that the people who are dead aren't there to say that nothing ever happens, so... I mean, think about this, like 1 million people died in America in COVID, and the only thing that people could talk about was how hard it was because they couldn't go outside of their house for, you know, a few weeks. Of course, a lot of those people were old people, so they don't really count. Death of old person is kind of like the old slave law where like slaves were like 3/5 of a person or something. We're like, yeah, it's bad that these people died, but they're old, so they're supposed to die soon anyways, and it's kind of great that we don't have to pay for their extra health care actually, but you're not allowed to say that part. I didn't get the nothing ever happens meme then, thanks for the clarification. There are long periods in which nothing legitimately never happened. Like the 90s. You guys weren't around, but shit really didn't happen during the 90s. We were really worried about whether Clinton stuck the cigar inside Monica Lewinsky's vagina for like months of a time because we didn't really have anything else interesting going on. The speed of the happenings in 2020s is absolutely insane. Is one happening over another. In the 90s, like, you would have like one news item and it would last for like 2 weeks. You'd be like, is Terrell Owens overrated? And we'd have to talk about whether Terrell Owens was like an overrated wide receiver for like an entire week because shit wasn't really happening. The Zoomies will never understand. We had enough time to obsess over JonBenet Ramsey. Don't look, but there's still people obsessing over her to this day. To this day, somebody is still out there searching for the truth. I'll never forget you, JonBenet and Ramsey. Just like white girl who died under slightly suspicious circumstances. The greatest tragedy of all time. We'll never forget. Cold War ended in 91, and September 11th happened in 2001. 90s really were the Oasis decade. Decade of peace, yeah. We had some cool shit in between. I'm glad I live in a tiny country in the middle of nowhere where nothing ever happens for real, usually. Yeah, but you're still getting fucked by the oil prices. Because the Strait of Hormuz is real. If we're going by the original character design, I need to add a dark color to her pants, but I don't think I should. I'm gonna test it out right now, but because Galleon in the forefront has so much darker colors, I think adding any extra here would probably make the screen too dark. Yeah, I think it is. You have to make these decisions. It might be okay. I don't know. We can try it out first. This is a good thing about working digitally, is that you can like do something and be like, I changed my mind. Do you do any traditional art sketching? Are you asking me? I still think you could do Galleon's rock halo if you made it flat enough and move her slightly to the right. I'm not doing the rock halo, dumbass. It takes up too much space. You can't even see it in this, for example. I guess I could add a few pieces of rocks. There is some space, but I just need to be one or two rocks slightly floating. But it's really unnecessary, I feel. It's not like people won't be able to recognize her without it. We can just put like one piece in the air. Not the full halo, I guess. Ah! 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 No, Dommy Mommy, please. Not the prostate. BB doesn't do traditional since he was a wee lad. I bought a tablet in 2011. You know, recently. 2011 was only a few years ago. And I haven't really done much traditional since then. I like drawing digitally, especially because the whole point is me posting shit on the internet. I have to make her other arm darker, but that might fuck up with the relationship with the boobs. Maybe we just use a slightly lighter gray for that. Just go like this. 2011 was 15 years ago, Uncle? Nah, no it wasn't. Who you kidding with? That can't be true. I deny your reality and choose to craft my own. It was but a few days ago when I was young. This is too much gray. I don't even know if I want any kind of... This is again the problem when you take a character that was meant to be done in color and try and do it in black and white. You end up with too much gray areas and stuff. Ends up being a little too dark in general. The opposite of this is also true. Often you have characters that were designed with black and white panels like manga and mine, and then if you use them in anime and stuff, they either have like too little details or the colors become too bright or stuff like that. I often have this problem with One Piece. I don't think One Piece colored in anime looks that good because I think Oda's colors look great in the format in which they're originally posted, in like with Copic markers and stuff like that. But in the anime format, they end up being too bright, and it's kind of distracting and hard to look at. You really can't do a one-to-one translation of these things. Don't know how you do it. I'm in my 20s and I already feel ancient. I have a very good diet, and I take care of myself, so I don't really feel that ancient, honestly. Also, I haven't really aged in a normal way because I have ignored all of the things that people would usually participate in the process of growing older. Like, I haven't found a wife and had kids or anything like that. I'm just at home grinding the grind set. And I still have hope for my future. I'm still like, I can still make it as a professional mangaka. And even if I don't make it by the time I'm 60, as long as I'm not dead, I can keep on trying. That level of delusion gets you far. They took Tan Robin away from us. Robin is tan in some of the coloring of Alabaster, and then in later images she becomes less tan, right? I can't really remember actually how tan she was. I think she was slightly tan. No, you can't. Carpal tunnel is coming. I don't feel any kind of carpal tunnel setting on. I think it's the way I hold my pen. Some people complain of like joint pain and shit like that, or like carpal tunnel pain, but whatever posture and whatever like pen pressure I'm using to draw, it's really been, I really haven't had any kind of drawing pains. I think I hold the stylus pretty loosely, and that helps. She was in the desert, so she was tan then. She was a Gyaru back then, guys. Gyaru Robin. But she's no longer a delinquent now. Oda is actually a racist, guys, didn't you know? He was saying that people with darker skin are inherently evil, and as soon as Robin became a good girl and she joined the Straw Hats crew, her skin got lighter because she was no longer corrupted by evil energies. Many such cases. It's be like people having horses having better health, but that's because only rich can afford horses. My yacht is what keeps me healthy, guys. I need you to donate more money so I can buy one. With only one yacht, I might die young, but if I have 2 or 3, I'm guaranteed to live healthy, trust me. I just need you guys to donate more money. Oda and all Asians being allergic to melanin. It actually goes back to the topic that I was just talking about figuring out the amount of grays and blacks you want on our page. Oda still works traditional media instead of digital. I don't think it even has people color it in digitally, which is what a lot of people do, is that they'll do the inking in traditional media and then have the coloring, the grays and stuff, the finishing process done in digitally. But I don't think it even has that, which means that if you have a character with gray skin or some, version of brown, then it takes way more time if you're working in traditional media, especially because you have to. You guys don't know this, but you have to apply this sheet of dots. It's like a wax paper, I guess, called screen tone, and then you have to cut it off using a box cutter, and then paste it on, and that shit takes so much time. It's a real pain in the ass. Anyways, the truth is Japanese people just don't find black people attractive. That is the truth. Especially the hair. You're out of... Are you saying that Oda goes out of his way to make Zoro hunt minorities? I thought Zoro was more into hunting Sanji's pussy. But if you say it's not that, and he's more into hunting minorities, then that might also be the case. I personally like to think of Zoro as a pussy hunter. Not a minority hunter. Also, the minorities in the One Piece universe are the fishmen, right? Insert extremely poorly conceived notion of racial injustice. Substitute it for fish people. Robin, you filthy poneglypher. When will we learn about the mysteries of the poneglyphers, as we like to call them? Robin technically is one of the biggest minorities in the story, since she's the last person from her island that loves knowledge. Yes, Robin, actually, one of the rarest people in One Piece, and her not being clinically retarded and not being like, I love meat so much. Yay, let's go on adventure. Rah! Makes her a massive minority. Sad, really. The most oppressed minority is the Tenryubito. I think one of the big problems of the current state of One Piece was because Oda made the Tenryubito, they have to actually be like strong characters, and now we're like bogged down in the mud of fighting the world government forever, when the rest of the plot had been all about setting up like Blackbeard and shit like that. Too much world government shenanigans, taking too much time. It will never end at this rate. The Tenryubito haven't had a relevant role except when they're a public asshole and when Luffy punches the shit out of them. Average Tenryubito. Shanks and his rat no me will save the day. I don't even know what's going on. I know that it was revealed that Shanks was a twins and also adopted or former Tenryubito or something like that. Which, if you ask me, is pretty obvious that Oda doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing at this point. Oda just like swinging wildly back and forth in the narrative, and he doesn't really know how to end it or go forward. And he doesn't have an editor to tell him what to do, so he can just do whatever he wants, which is bad news generally. In general, it's said among the editor community that an editor's job is to make sure that the manga author isn't just drawing what he wants to draw, because when manga authors are allowed to draw what they want to draw, they produce, slop that is only relevant to them. People are usually, they want to think like, oh, it's the editor is always making my content worse, but usually it's the opposite. When artists are left to their own devices, they're just gonna draw like nipples, shitting nipples, dick nipples all day long, so they need an artist needs an editor to keep them under control, but alas, Oda has become too powerful, so nobody can stop him now. Shonen manga work because they're made by young people full of energy, but they need an old man Tard Wrangler to keep them under control. It's a perfect system. I really do think it sort of ends up being like that. Like, if you don't have the Tard Wrangler, it can devolve pretty quickly. The Tards must be wrangled, or else. Except when the Tard just dies from overexhaustion or fails to capture an audience. Actually, when they fail to capture an audience, that's not a failure of the system. That's actually it working properly, because what you can do is you just cancel it and then you get the next Tard in line. It's actually very simple. That's actually one of the huge benefits of the manga system, is that the truth is that none of these producers, whether they're editors or like movie producers or whatever, or video game producers who are like, I need you to make a game like Fortnite, like none of them actually know what's going to be popular in the long run. They're just throwing shit at the wall and making it stick. But with the case of manga, you can throw shit at the wall for very cheap cost, and then keep on trying a bunch of different shit to see if it sticks or not. Way more than you can do with like a video game or a movie. Imagine if High Guard had a budget that was like a few $1,000s, and after they were allowed to, they were just able to shit it out onto the world very quickly. Think how much money would have been saved. If High Guard was a shonen manga and Shonen Jump, what would happen is it would show up, and then people were like, nah, this ain't it, dog, and they would run for, 10 weeks, and then it would be canceled, and that would be it, and the publishing company wouldn't even lose that much money. So this allows Japanese publishers to be constantly taking risks and stuff in a way that, for example, a video game studio cannot afford to do. The problem is how power publishers have, and then if anything gets popular, it has to go on forever, or acts fast. Well, the thing is, I think the authors have the ability to end a story if they want to. Japan isn't like Marvel and DC, in which like the publisher has full control of the IP, and if the author says, I'm not going to draw anymore, the publisher is like, fine, we'll find someone else to draw it. If the author truly wants something to end, they can get it to end. That's the thing. But they have like mouths to feed, not just their own mouths, but like all the assistants that are relying on them and stuff like that. And who knows if they'll have another popular IP. So it's not surprising that a lot of manga artists, when they have one hit that's popular enough to go on forever, just choose to get it to go on forever, even if it ends up ultimately lowering the quality of the series or whatever. Because there's no, look at Naruto. It goes on for 70 volumes. You get hyped up for Samurai 8, and Samurai 8 fails spectacularly, That's just standard shonen manga things right there. But if you do want to end it, like the Kimetsu author, she ended Demon Slayer when she wanted to, and it's a very digestible, like 20-volume story now instead. But I'm sure the publishing company wanted to go on because it was at like, its absolute peak in popularity or something. But she was like, nah, I'm gonna fuck off. I don't care. Inspiring stuff if you think about it. The reason that you know that publishing companies don't have as much power as we tend to think from a Western perspective is examples like the Gash-Bell case and shit like that. Like, ultimately, when authors get in fights with a publishing company, they can always like collect their shit and go to a different publishing company and keep their IP in their own hands. You don't have any situation in which you're like, yeah, the author got in a fight with the publishing company and they took his IP and now it's owned by the publishing company and there's nothing the author can do. Everybody knows that the author is the one who's responsible for that IP. If you think about it, the Western cartoon publishing is crazy from that aspect. It's right. The fact that you don't have like an author associated with the characters or the story, and you just have like a corporation spoon-feeding you bullshit. No wonder Western entertainment sucks. I believe that a lot of authors just suck at saying no and ending shit. Again, they don't know if this is the last paycheck they're gonna get. Alright? Like, you never know if your next manga will be a hit or not. So if you're having, like, ungodly amounts of money thrown at you, and then you also have, like, your team that's helping you draw the thing, and you're paying their salaries, then sure, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, let's just keep on going, right? Nothing weird about that. If you do something for DC, you are just a drone. People just like, some people just like Batman. It can't be helped. It's not like they have a ton of publishing options, right? You can go to Image Comics or some shit. Japanese culture is way more supportive of creativity as a whole when compared to, like, America and stuff. There's like one kid in every class that can draw anime or manga or something. I blame Americans for caring more about the publishers than the authors themselves. Yeah, like how many normies could say the name of the writer or the artist? I mean, even the fact that there's a writer and an artist and they're separate says a lot about how, like, a lot of the labor is divided, right? In Japan, you have to do everything yourself. In America, you have a colorist. You fucking have someone to write the dialogue, like the actual lettering. It's not really your... Like, Japan, they have assistants, of course, but no one would deny that it's the artistic vision of the original author. So, it's just a pretty flawed system that America has. Obviously, it's very difficult to be able to write your own story and draw your own characters and do everything yourself, but that's what makes these, like, consistent works. When I heard the manga making process described as the mangaka charges the publication a fee per page, that really just sets the stage. The publishers don't own the artists provide a service to the publishers to help make the magazine good, which is a mutual benefit. It isn't even really that. It's more like the magazine gives you money as a fee per page, but that money isn't enough to actually survive when you pay your assistants. So it's basically like an advance so that you don't starve until the book comes out after the magazine stage. And then if you have a large enough fan base buying your stuff, then you can survive based on the book sales. But until then, you're kind of hoping that you don't starve, because it's not really that much money. So it's mostly like a meritocracy that's really based on, you know, whether people are going to buy your shit. It really does come down to that. The ownership is good. I mean, it sure as fuck better be. 99% of mangaka are barely making enough money. Because if you get canceled at an early stage, you aren't making that much money at all. It's a very severe world in which a very small percentage of people get incredibly rich, but there's not a lot of them. It applies to everything. Everyone knows who Kojima Miyazaki, but who knows any American director or writer names in games? No one, unless you're a hardcore fan or something. But they do know them in novels, like books, and movies, though. So this probably comes from the American attitude in which this stuff is entertainment for children and doesn't need to be taken seriously, I think is how it works. So people will talk about like Pixar as like an amazing thing that even adults can enjoy, blah blah blah, but very few people will like talk about it as like a work of art or some shit like that, right? And that's the most high-end example, so everything below that is even more so. It's going to be like, yeah, nobody cares. Just in general, there's too much respect for corporations in America, whether it's the producers of these entertainment things. America considers itself to be an individual country, but individualistic country. But for that, they are very willing to suck corporate cock in a way that doesn't really make much sense from a creator perspective for Japan. I mean, if the Japanese Supreme Court ruled that corporations were people so that they should have unlimited amounts of free speech, I think most Japanese people would be like, you what, mate? Alright, that looks good. Looks good enough. Make this line darker. Alright guys, I think I'm done, so I'm gonna end the stream here. I will continue working on this. This is like a 3-page comic, but luckily I don't have to draw these extremely detailed gacha illustration characters after this, so it's just Coomers, which I can draw very quickly. See you around, boys. Good night. Have a nice night.